Okay, Matt. You got this. Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and you know what? It's a good day in America. It's a good day in the world, ladies and gentlemen. You know why? Do you know why? Because I think I finally get it. I think I finally understand Charlotte Katakuri's Mochi Mochi no Mi. Now, I know there is undoubtedly some people out there in internet land that are already beginning to warm up their keyboards with the comment, Tekking, I understood what Katakuri's Devil Fruit did from day one! You're such a fool. You're so silly and cringy. You didn't understand how his Devil Fruit worked. I understood how it worked. And you know what? Go ahead and leave that comment. I don't care. I ain't even mad. Because if you could make sense out of this right from the start, if you knew exactly where this was going, I will give you a standing ovation. I'm proud of you. But as for me personally, and I am sure the same for a lot of other people out there, this was freaking confusing. And let me clarify, it wasn't confusing just trying to figure out, the basic, the fundamentals of his fruit. He can control Mochi. It's the Mochi Mochi no Mi. We understood that part. That's not the part that's hard to grok. It was the inconsistencies that his fruit had with the type that it was placed in, how it was first placed in Logia, and that was a problem on Oda's end, so he changed it to meaning special Paramecia, but he didn't really clarify what special Paramecia was. And then I think a big one for a lot of people is that he was able to let attacks seemingly pass through him, that not just like bending his body out of the way, like, oh, I'm about to get hit on my jaw, I'll just bend my Mochi jaw out of the way. No, it's I'm being punched by, like, a volley from Luffy that's charged up with armament hockey, and the attacks seemingly pass through me, like I'm, like I'm a Logia, like it's just passing through me. That was a problem I think a lot of people had, and I think I've made, on top of the chapter reviews, I think I've made like 2 other videos talking about the Mochi Mochi no Mi in some way, shape, or form. So consider this like the last of those videos. It's been a while, but consider this the last, because I think I finally gathered everything together that I need from this recent fight with Luffy. And let me just explain to you how this went down. This was a journey for me, okay? This was like, Katakuri's first introduced, here's his ability, I talk about it. And then a bunch of people comment, what's really going on, and then I read those comments, and then I correct my understanding. And then the whole thing with the special Paramecia class came on. So I had to read more comments, and I had to change my understanding once again. And then more stuff happens that I don't understand, so I had to read some more comments, and I had to try to understand one more time. And then after that, I'll be honest, I watched some hentai because this was just getting ridiculous. But then I got right back to reading the comments and trying to make sense out of this whole mess. And you know what? I think this whole thing, just in retrospect, would have been a lot easier if Oda just implemented the same thing he did with Zone Devil Fruits with the Paramecia class Devil Fruits. Like, for zones, he actually specified, like, okay, here's normal zones, but then here's ancient zones, here's carnivorous zones, and here's mythical zones, just to separate them from the normal class. Good, nice, it's simple, it's clean. Paramecia is a freaking shit show. Alright, it's like 75 Devil Fruits we know so far in the Paramecia class. That's every just random ability that Oda came up with that doesn't fit in the other 2 classes. He just shoves over into Paramecia. There's Devil Fruits that affect other things, like Diamante's Flag Fruit. He can turn other things into flags. There's Devil Fruits that affect the body, the user, like Kelly Funk can turn himself into a jacket. There's Devil Fruits that can summon some sort of substance, like Magellan and Galdino. They can summon poison and wax, respectively. There's Devil Fruits that can summon other things other than just a substance, like Robin can summon, parts of her body in various places. Then, you have the special Paramecia category that seemingly was just invented for the sake of Katakuri. But you know what? I was looking into it, and I think I understand what makes Katakuri a special Paramecia. And if Katakuri is a special Paramecia, then there is one other person that fits the description. If what I'm thinking, the reason why Katakuri is special, then that means Luffy is also a special Paramecia. Allow me to explain. So the first thing you have to distinguish between is Katakuri's Mochi Mochi no Mi allows him to summon Mochi, right? Well, what makes him different than Gaudino being able to summon wax, or Magellan being able to summon poison? The difference is very simple. Those two, Gaudino and Magellan, they can only summon their substance. They can't turn into it. Katakuri doesn't just allow him to summon Mochi, no. His body becomes Mochi. It is actually Mochi. Whether he likes it or not, his body has been transformed into physical Mochi, okay? And it's the exact same thing with Luffy. Luffy's body is now permanently made of rubber. It's not like he's a Logia. You know, Logias have to kind of respond reflexively, and they have to train themselves in order to shift their body from flesh and blood into their element. You know, now, Logia users can get really good at this, like Crocodile. He was able to train his body to the point where if he was attacked without actually knowing it, he can, you know, quickly, reflexively change his body into sand to avoid an attack, alright? But that takes some skill. Alright, under normal circumstances, if you first eat like a Logia fruit, you're not going to be that skilled at transforming your body in and out of your element, okay? But it's that weakness is bypassed with Luffy because his body is 100% always rubber. Whether he thinks it, whether he wills it or not, it doesn't matter. So he can, you know, a sniper could have a, you know, rifle pointed at Luffy's head a mile away. Luffy could have no idea what's going on. He gets shot and the bullet would just pong, and Luffy would just be like, the hell just happened? You know, that's how it would work. His internal organs are also made of rubber. His blood vessels, his heart, his bones, all that stuff, rubber. Alright? Same thing with Katakuri and his Mochi. So that's an important thing to distinguish, okay? And the reason that that's a big deal is because so far, out of the entire Paramecia class, only Katakuri and Luffy have this type of fruit that actually changes their body. Magellan, I like Magellan. Magellan is a flesh and blood human. Well, he's also like 30% shit as well. But, you know, he's a mostly flesh and blood human that can just summon a layer of poison around him. That's it. You cannot point to a single other Paramecia that's been revealed in the story so far that actually alters the user's body composition into some other substance or trait. You just can't find it. I dare you to, but you can't, because I was looking at this for a while, alright? So I think that's what that's what classifies Katakuri as special. And the thing that was really screwing with me during these fights is that, you know, you have Luffy charging up armament hockey in both hands, and then Gumu Gumu no Gatling, you know, and you see Luffy's attacks not just, you know, brushing aside Katakuri, because I can understand that. I can understand if Katakuri's made out of Mochi, you know, Luffy goes to punch him in the face and he, like, scrunches his body to the left to avoid the punch, but that's clearly not what's happening. There's plenty of times where Luffy's about to launch a body shot right against Katakuri, and a hole just opens up, and it just passes through him. There's other times where Luffy's launching a volley of punches, and you can see, like, little fragments of Mochi break off of Katakuri as his punches are hitting. And then we later find out that it's really Katakuri's observation hockey combined with his Mochi Devil Fruit that's really creating this full effect. It's not the Mochi Devil Fruit on its own. So, okay, that gives us something else to go on. Basically what happens is Luffy launches a punch, Katakuri observation hockey of the gods can sense it coming. He's gonna punch me right here in my chest. So, because his Mochi Devil Fruit is so versatile and so malleable, and his body transforms into that, he can literally just mold his body in a new shape and form, opening up a hole right where his punch is gonna pass through. Luffy's punch passes through it, retracts, and then whoosh, back into it. From the way I'm looking at this, I mean, it was confused with a Logia at first. From the way I'm looking at this, Katakuri just got super lucky with his Devil Fruit ability, because it really is like combining a Paramecia with a Logia in a lot of respects. A Logia allows you to transform into an element. Most of the time, that element is intangible. It's not something you can physically just grab and hold, like fire, or like smoke, or like gas. So, with Katakuri's Mochi, that's clearly not the case. Mochi is something that's tangible, that you can actually grab. In Luffy's case, he can even eat it, although Luffy hates Mochi. But for the most part, that's not even a negative. Okay, because Mochi, you understand, is something that's malleable. It might not be as versatile as smoke, which is formless, but it's malleable enough that you can actually change your body into whatever shape you want, any size you want. You could punch a bunch of holes through you if you want. That's what's truly versatile about his fruit. Now, on its own, that wouldn't be that useful if your opponent was using Haki, because someone breaks out a Haki axe blade and starts charging at you. You have the Mochi no Mi. Yeah, you can turn your body into Mochi and stuff, but you're still gonna get hit, you're still gonna get cut. But using Katakuri's observation Haki, he's honed it to the point where he can see the future, and now all techniques are basically, as long as he has his observation Haki up, as long as he doesn't get distracted, he is basically invincible. Because his attacks, you know, he can sense exactly where they're coming, and he can mold his body as necessary for each individual attack as they come. So, in review, Katakuri does not transform his body into Mochi, it's just always constantly Mochi. That's what makes him special. Using his observation Haki, he can determine where attacks are coming, and because Mochi is inherently malleable, he can alter his body in any shape or form in order to let that attack pass through him completely harmlessly, and then revert his body back to the same shape it was. You know, and those are the main points I want to bring up. So now I need to bring up the differences on what makes, if they're both special Paramecia, what makes Katakuri's fruit better than Luffy. Because it was stated that, yeah, his fruit was like a higher tier than Luffy, or like the better version of it. Devil fruits have those. You know, like the more advanced version of Monet's snow fruit would be Aokiji's chili fruit. You know, Monet can summon snow, Aokiji has like complete dominance over everything cold, and he can literally, you know, lower temperatures himself. Mr. 1, Daz Bones, is Supa no Mi. He can create, you know, blades out of any part of his body. Well, Baby Fives can do that as well, her Buki no Mi, but it also can summon any kind of weapon. So, in Luffy's case, he has the Gamu no Mi, which transforms his body into rubber, and he can stretch and do all that stuff, but the thing that makes Katakuri's Mochi no Mi even stronger is that it's just the increased, I know I use this word a lot, but it's a fun word to use, is the increased level of malleability and versatility that he has. Luffy is stuck in, like, a more hardened form of rubber. You know, like a rubber band or something like that, or like a car tire, you know, not quite that, you know, thick, but, you know, he's that kind of rubber. Now, rubber can exist in a liquid form if you melt it, and it becomes very malleable when it's a liquid form. You could shape it into a bunch of different things, but that's not what Luffy's Devil Fruit is. That's not how it works. He can't change between the different stages of rubber. I mean, that would be a pretty cool ability if he could do that. Liquid rubber, and then, like, standard rubber, and then, like, a more thick, like, car tire kind of rubber. That'd be a really cool ability. Gear Fifth, anybody? I don't know. But for right now, though, that's just not how his Devil Fruit is. It's locked in at a certain level of malleability and stretchability, I guess. Elasticity. That's the proper word. Not stretchability. It would be elasticity. But that's what Luffy is locked into. And he can't change that. Katakuri, huge spectrum on this. He can make his body stretch as far as Luffy, or possibly further. He can bend his body in all wacky shapes, whether or not it really makes sense or not. That's what the advantage is between the two Devil Fruits, and that's what makes the Mochi no Mi the natural superior to the Gamu no Mi. Alright, that's how that works. It also would explain how he could also hide items inside of himself. Like, he can take his spear, Mogura, or Mole, or the literal translation in Japanese, which sounds infinitely cooler, Earth Dragon. He could just take this spear, and because his body's made out of mochi, he could just literally, like suck the spear into his entire body, and it just can be in there. Katakuri is really tall, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew this. Katakuri is like 16, 17 feet tall, or some ridiculous thing like that. So the fact that he could have a bunch of items just floating around inside of him. You know, he could, you know, take anything like a bag of donuts, for instance, and just have them absorbed into his mochi body and then pull them out whenever. And that's what he does with his spear. And Luffy can't do anything like that. You know, his body doesn't have that kind of qualities of, like, liquid rubber to keep stuff in there. Now I'm imagining, like when I said liquid rubber, I'm thinking of, like, Terminator 2, you know, it's like, he could transform into liquid metal, and now I'm imagining Luffy as, like, he could transform into liquid rubber. Knives and stretching weapons. But yeah, so that's the difference there. I know. Maybe a lot of you, this is just nothing new. You know, you understood this a while ago, but I couldn't grasp it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I overthink things all the damn time. You know, maybe it was that first mistake that threw me off, like it was a Logia, but then they had to change it to Special Paramecia, and I just didn't get that. Or, you know, I was like, okay, well, how's he dodging bullets? How are the bullets? Because a lot of times when Oda's drawing him, it doesn't look like he's making a hole and the thing's traveling through it. It really does look like it's just passing through him, like not a big deal. But hey, if it's something that doesn't have hockey on it, if it's just a regular bullet, then they could just pass right through him like a Logia, and it wouldn't matter. It's only when you're dealing with armament type attacks like Luffy's punches, that's when you have to start worrying about opening up a hole big enough for the whole thing to pass through without hitting you, because even if it grazes you, that'll do damage. But if it's like a normal sword or spear or arrow or bullets, Katakuri doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't even have to use his observation hockey at that point. His whole body's made out of this gooey mochi, so it passes right through him. So let's end it out. Let's just end this out by talking about some of Katakuri's techniques. He is an awakened user, so we don't have to discuss what would happen with, Mochi Mochi no Mi awakened. We already know that. And this also kind of confirms how all awakenings work, at least in Paramecia class. Doflamingo's was able to summon strings in the area around him. Katakuri's able to turn the area around him into mochi, so I don't think it's going to be something like an awakening is different in a great, grand way for every single Devil Fruit user. It might be for different categories, but so far from Paramecia, what we've seen, it does just allow you to change the surrounding area into your substance, if that's what you do. Now, how would it work for somebody that doesn't have a substance that's created? Like how would it work for, we just discussed this, how would it work for, like, Apu's, musical type Devil Fruit? And I had some ideas with that. But when it comes to substances being created via your Paramecia Devil Fruit, it just allows you to turn the area around into it. Even if that area is like a pocket dimension created by another Devil Fruit, he was able to turn Brulee's mirror world into his own mochi, making mirror mochi to slam down on Luffy. On top of that, he can also create his Peerless Donuts! These are just regular donuts, not their hostess, not Peerless, but you know what I mean. Peerless Donuts, which kind of work as like a setup, like a stationary object he creates wherever he wants, I guess in a vicinity around him. So he can create like a mochi donut around his enemy, and then using the mochi from that, he can like launch a punch where he's standing, and the mochi will transform into his fist and hit his opponent like on the other side of the battlefield. So I really like the Peerless Donuts ability. It really does seem like an ability you would have in like an RPG or something. Like, I'm gonna summon a bunch of these stationary objects that are around the area, but then I can use my abilities to like use magic through these stationary objects and like electrocute you from a distance or something. So I really like the Peerless Donut like Block Mochi combo. Block Mochi seems to just be compressing his mochi down into like a block, so his like his body's like his fist turns into like a cube shape, which just deals more damage, especially when he's adding armament hockey into it, just a more compressed, it's got sharp edges now. That mochi's gonna hurt. It's gonna cut you up. Really other clever ways he's used it, like with his spear, I guess trident would be the more apt term for that thing, but he can actually, because his body's made out of mochi, he can spin his arm around like a spring, and then, when he goes to attack, like mochi thrust, the spring comes undone, and it does like this, turns his freaking trident into like a death drill that like sends right through the enemy. Like that was a really cool ability. I like that. Katakuri really, he's had the ability for a while, so he takes full advantage of how the fruit can work. I mean, hey, if we're going along that line too, I guess he could mimic Bellamy's fruit, the spring fruit. If he springs up his legs and bounces all over the place, God, sure, Katakuri could totally do that. That's what I mean. It's really an OP Devil Fruit if you really sit down and think about it. Even without observation hockey of the gods, it's still kind of an OP Logia / Paramecia Devil Fruit thrown into one. Fuck, it's a zone 2, because if he really wanted to, he could probably mold his body into some type of animal. Katakuri, the adorable little bunny rabbit that's just hanging out on your windowsill, but at any moment he transforms into this giant fanged creature with red hair that'll like stab you with a drill. So I guess he's all 3 categories thrown into one. It's kind of OP when you think about it. Good for disguises, too. I mean, if he really wanted to, he could change the shape of his head. He's already done that with his mouth. He, whenever he was chomping down on those donuts in his hut, like, I like donuts, yummy, yummy, yummy. He used the mochi malleability to increase the size of his lower jaw so he can shove more giant donuts in there. So he could totally, like, rearrange his face into something completely different as a disguise. We might actually see that in the future. If Katakuri, if Luffy ever escapes and the Big Mom Pirates are out for blood, maybe Katakuri would do that to change his appearance to get close or something like that as reconnaissance. I don't know. But he totally could. Yeah, man. So, yeah, that's the Mochi Mochi no Mi. You know, a lot of crazy stuff with it. You know, it probably took me longer to figure it out than a lot of other people, but I'm glad I kind of finally did. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. I got really nothing else for you. Oh, and as for the art contest, it ended yesterday thanks to everybody who entered, thanks to I believe over 300. I haven't even gone through the last wave of entries yet. Like last night before the deadline, I must have gotten at least over 100 entries within the last few hours. So I still have to go back and categorize all those. I will be making a video in the next day or so about how, the time frame of everything's going to work and more into detail about the contest. But I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who entered. Really, really creative stuff and many different varieties of art. Really appreciate it. It's probably going to take a while to go through everything, but I want to just tell you I really, really do appreciate all your effort that you put towards me, or rather not me, all the effort you put into winning a Nintendo Switch. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. I'm gonna go enjoy some donuts. Yeah, have a good night.